Thrivent, planning your finances is bigger than money. It's a way to support the people, causes, and community you love, because helping you put your faith into action is at the heart of what we do. Thrivent, where money means more. Connect with us at Thrivent.com. Life Audio.
The Bible Study Podcast, episode 921. Today, the Bible Study Podcast continues a study of the book of Luke with chapter 6. Welcome to the Bible Study Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Christensen. We finally made it through chapter 5. I know I'm moving slow, but there's just so much here in the book of Luke. And we'll continue on with Jesus is the Lord of the Sabbath right after a word from this sponsor.
Have you ever struggled to connect Scripture to the issues you're facing today? You can discover what the Bible means to your own life with the NIV Application Bible from Zondervan. It features thousands of study notes drawn from the best-selling NIV Application Commentary series. Throughout the Bible, original meaning notes help you explore the meaning of the biblical text, while application notes help you relate the Bible's teaching to your everyday life. There are also book introductions that provide perspective and application for every book of the Bible, along with character profiles, questions to spur your own growth, and articles that explore the different aspects of God's character. Together, these tools will help you learn what the Bible means and discover what it means for your life today. Find out more at nivapplicationbible.com. That's nivapplicationbible.com.
At Thrivent, planning your finances is bigger than money. It's a way to support the people, causes, and community you love, because helping you put your faith into action is at the heart of what we do. Thrivent, where money means more. Connect with us at Thrivent.com.
Chapter 6 starts this way: Jesus is the Lord of the Sabbath. One Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields, and his disciples began to pick some heads of grain, rub them in their hands, and eat the kernels. Some of the Pharisees asked, "Why are you doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?" Jesus answered them, "Have you never read what David did when he and his companions were hungry? He entered the house of God, and taking the consecrated bread, he ate what is lawful only for priests to eat. And he also gave some to his companions. Then Jesus said to them, 'The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath.'" On another Sabbath, he went into the synagogue and was teaching, and a man was there whose hand was shriveled. The Pharisees and the teachers of the law were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus, so they watched him closely to see if he would heal on the Sabbath. But Jesus knew what they were thinking and said to the man with the shriveled hand, "Get up and stand in front of everyone." So he got up and stood there. Then Jesus said to them, "I ask you, which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save life or to destroy it?" He looked around at them all and then said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He did so, and his hand was completely restored. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law were furious and began to discuss with one another what they might do to Jesus. So we saw in the last chapter that there is this growing tension between Jesus and the Pharisees. We saw 3 different times that it came up in the last chapter, in chapter 5. One is that Jesus was, when Jesus told the paralyzed man that he was forgiven, the Pharisees and the teachers of the law are like, "Who is this fellow to speak blasphemy?" All right, so they already think he's a blasphemer, or they're wondering if he is. Now, of course, they were a little set back when he healed the man who was paralyzed, but they still have this question in their mind. And then he went to a banquet that Levi, his new disciple, who is a tax collector / sinner, held for other tax collectors and sinners, and they weren't so fond of that. And then also there was this question of fasting. Why don't your disciples fast? And so we're going to see this tension continue between Jesus and the teachers of the law. And one of the main issues is going to be the Sabbath, what they do on the Sabbath. And we get 2 particular stories here in Luke 6 about the Sabbath. And we need to go back and remember that the law said, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy, and don't do work on the Sabbath. And in the Old Testament, that wasn't something in the most of the Old Testament that they were very good at. And the Pharisees, remember, came, as we said, in the intertestamental period. They were not something that was in the Old Testament, and they came in somewhat as a response when we did that study on the intertestamental period on the book of Maccabees, somewhat as a response to the Hellenization that was trying to get rid of their faith, and somewhat as a response to the returning from exile. We don't want that to happen again. So they are very religious, and they're trying, or at least in the beginning, the whole purpose was to be more faithful than we had been before, and to try and obey these laws, like keep the Sabbath holy, don't do work on the Sabbath. But what is work on the Sabbath? What does it mean to do work on the Sabbath? If I sit down on my laptop and I'm looking at Facebook, am I doing work? Well, probably not, unless I'm doing some promoting of the podcast. Is that work? Well, maybe it is. So there are these lines that you have to figure out if you're trying to be the Pharisees and you're trying not to do work on the Sabbath. And it got very complicated. You could lift some things, but not other things. So you could lift something that was less than the weight of 2 dried figs, because that wasn't considered work. But if you lifted something heavier, so you can imagine you could lift a paperback book maybe, but you couldn't lift a hardback book, because one would be work and one would not. It's that sort of trying to figure out what the rules are. And it gets more and more complicated. And somewhere in the midst of that complication, Jesus, I think, is thinking that they have lost track of the point. That the Sabbath was to remember God, but really to have a day of rest, to have a day when you are recovering from the week. And their nitpickiness, if we could say that, their legalistic approach to it might in fact be counterproductive. Can you imagine how recreational is it? How much does it restore you if every time you pick something up or think about picking something up on Sunday for us, on Saturday for them, you have to think, now, how does this weigh versus 2 dried figs? Can I pick up my glasses? Yes. Can I pick up my iPhone? Well, I don't know. How much do that might be too much. And so it got very complicated, and Jesus is bringing them back to that there may be something else, that there may be something different intended in that. And so the first thing they have is the disciples are walking the grain field and they're eating some of the heads of grain. Well, it doesn't sound all that attractive to me. I'd rather have them roasted or something like that. But what the Pharisees saw is the disciples, as they rub those grains in their hands, they're threshing, and therefore they're working, and therefore it's illegal on the Sabbath. And Jesus points out to them that in the Old Testament, there was this time when David was fleeing from Saul, and they went to actually eat the consecrated bread, the bread that only should have been eaten by the priests, because they were hungry. And he doesn't say it here, but he will say elsewhere that the Sabbath was created for man, not man for the Sabbath. The Sabbath was created so that we would be better off. Well, are you better off if you're hungry? No. And so when he says the Son of Man is the Lord of the Sabbath, he's saying, I'm in charge here, is one of the things he's saying. He's claiming that authority that he claimed to forgive sins in the last chapter that they thought was blaspheming. But he is in charge. But he's also saying, and I understand what the Sabbath is for, that I understand the point here. And so, again, as he's in the synagogue, and there's a man whose hand is shriveled, they're looking at him. They're using this man who is sick as an opportunity to catch Jesus. They're waiting, looking for reasons to accuse him. They don't care about the man at all. And Jesus does. And so he has the man stand up and says, which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save life or to destroy it? Well, if the purpose of the Sabbath is for man, then it's the point of the Sabbath is to do good. And so with that in mind, he looks around at them all and then heals the man. But the Pharisees didn't get the point. The Pharisees didn't hear what he was saying. Now they're furious and discuss with one another what they might do to Jesus. There is nothing good that is going to come from that sentence. They don't mean we're going to send Jesus an angry letter. We don't know what they're going to do yet. They don't know what they're going to do yet, but it's not. But this situation, this relationship is going downhill real fast. And how sad it is that the thing that made them furious was the healing of someone. Something that should bring joy, something that should bring rejoicing, something that brought rejoicing in heaven made them furious. It does make me wonder, it does make me pause when we find ourselves furious. Maybe we should pause and think, is this me or am I out of tune with what God is doing here? With that, we're going to end this episode of the Bible Study Podcast. If you have any questions, send an email to chris2x@gmail.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at thebiblestudypodcast.com. And thanks so much for listening. I want to take just a second to thank the team at Life Audio for their partnership with us on this podcast. If you go to lifeaudio.com, you'll find dozens of other faith-centered podcasts in their network. They've got shows about prayer, Bible study, parenting, and more.
Have you ever struggled to connect Scripture to the issues you're facing today? You can discover what the Bible means to your own life with the NIV Application Bible from Zondervan. It features thousands of study notes drawn from the best-selling NIV Application Commentary series. Throughout the Bible, original meaning notes help you explore the meaning of the biblical text, while application notes help you relate the Bible's teaching to your everyday life. There are also book introductions that provide perspective and application for every book of the Bible, along with character profiles, questions to spur your own growth, and articles that explore the different aspects of God's character. Together, these tools will help you learn what the Bible means and discover what it means for your life today. Find out more at nivapplicationbible.com. That's nivapplicationbible.com.